perspective.
An unfortunate way for the Bills to lose. A coin toss in overtime. Did you watch the game? I get the impression, Craig, that you're a football fan.
I do like the football.
Yeah?
And unfortunately, because I'm not a night owl, I went to bed right before the overtime.
Oh, wow.
And see, my understanding of these rules is in overtime, both teams are supposed to possess the ball once. But that's not what happened last night.
Well, if you score a touchdown in the NFL, the game is over.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you can't win with a field goal, right? If you do a field goal, then the other team gets the ball to go ahead and do that.
If you kick a field goal, it goes back to the other team.
It goes back to the other team, yeah.
All the things.
And there'll be a lot of debate about that whole
Yes.
I would think. Tough way to end the season. Nikki Chambliss is in the house as well. We'll get rocking and rolling here in a matter of moments. Judah, we are in your hands. Guys, good Monday morning. My name is Jerry Miller, and welcome to the Monday Market Monitor here on Real Talk on the I Love CVille Network. We're live in Charlottesville, across Central Virginia, the Commonwealth, the country, and the world here on the I Love CVille Network, and a lot to cover on today's program. As we inch closer and closer and closer to the end of January, we have similar trends here. Inventory issues across Central Virginia, interest rates on the rise, still a deep buyer pool. Demand off the charts, markets volatile as all get out as we look at the screen here in the studio. And a lot to cover today on the Monday Market Monitor presented by Keller Williams, Yes Realty Partner, and Segura Solar. Judah Wickhauer is our director. If we can go to the four-shot, Judah, and welcome our panel of superstars. Keith Smith at the head of the table. How are you, Keith?
I am doing great. Much like Craig, the difference on my football experiences, I took a short nap in the first quarter, right? so I can catch up because that is generally past my bedtime also. But we're excited to have Craig here. So, Craig, we're just going to kick off. Introduce yourself. Tell everybody about your wonderfulness, and you guys are a husband and wife team. Talk about that.
We are a husband and wife team, and we are wonderful, as you alluded to.
No, she's wonderful.
Well, I always say to people, that getting that woman to marry me was the best scam I ever pulled. Kendra's absolutely amazing.
Fantastic.
So we met back in the mid-'90s in Richmond, and just fell head over heels in love like teenagers. I mean, it was really disgusting. And so we just knew that we were going to get married, and we used to travel up to Charlottesville for the weekend just to walk on the downtown mall, to look at the mountains. And it was just always something that we looked forward to doing, and it seemed like something that you would aspire to, that you would at one day land in Charlottesville. And being self-employed, as we both were, we said one day, let's just do it. So we put our house on the market, moved to Charlottesville, and
why Charlottesville?
Why not Charlottesville? Charlottesville's perfect.
Yeah.
You've got the mountains. You've got everything that a big city would have in a small package. The downtown area of Charlottesville, there's no high rises. I don't even think of Charlottesville as a city. I really think about it as a big town. And when you go downtown, you can see why, because there's not smokestacks and high rises. It very much is small and compact and homey, but it has everything that you could ever want in a big city. All the arts, the entertainment, the restaurants, without all the baggage, So it's, and there's a je ne sais quoi to Charlottesville that most people don't get unless you've actually been here for a little while. But once you've been here for a little while, you realize, yeah, it's kind of special, So,
Craig, our guest, guys, Nikki Chambliss in the house. Good weekend and good Monday to you, Nikki Chambliss. How are you?
Hello. Having a marvelous Monday thus far, and I think it's just going to keep getting better.
I agree. Guys, let's take a deep dive into trends, into the market. Craig, you know the market as well as all of us. Mm-hmm. Your take so far on what you saw in 2021 and how 2022 has started.
So, everybody, even the layperson knows we have no inventory. 2021 was a mess in that regards, but if financially, there was a lot of activity. If something came on the market, it was going to sell unless there was some horrible detrimental problem with it. Just to give you an idea of what the market is looking like from a boots on the ground perspective, Kendra and I usually keep between 10 to 15 listings at any one time. We have none right now.
Yeah.
How many?
None.
So, and that's common with a lot of the heavy hitters. They'll tell you the same thing. And but we're working with probably 20 buyers, and we usually work with 2 or 3 buyers at a time. So that's indicative of everything that's going on in our local market right now.
This was an interesting, Keith, we'll throw it to you. Friend of the program, Seth Batten, posted a comment on his Facebook page. You guys know him
Yes.
As a realtor as well. And he was talking about the limited inventory under a certain price point. And here was his Facebook post. And get ready for this. Our office has 29% of the active housing inventory currently listed under $300,000 in the Charlottesville metro area. Can anybody guess how many he has?
How many
I
he
can't
has?
answer
How
it
many he
because
has?
I
Yeah,
already
how many
saw
the
this,
office has?
so-
Nikki, you
I know
tackle-
I
you
saw
tackle.
it. Like it was like,
2 of 7.
yeah.
Wow.
2 of 7, and his office, 29% of the listings under 300K.
So much like Craig, Yona and I, we had one, we sold it, but it's unusual for us this time of the year. And I actually, Greg and I, Greg.
My name is Jerry.
Jerry, that's Craig.
Yeah.
I'll have a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
I'll feel better. I combined the names together. We didn't talk about today's, but I actually brought with me a inventory spreadsheet that I have since 2016. And it's interesting on
bet.
how, if you take a look at the inventory and the sales end of it, where are we down? We literally have 0 listings at the moment, just like you guys.
Yeah.
So how can we help people, right?
Right.
And how do we get this inventory thing loosened up a little bit? I mean, you've been in the business for a while. What's your ideas?
To loosen up the inventory? Gosh, that's $1 million question. I think the lack of inventory is something that's a product of years of events. So I really don't think there's a simple way to say, how do we loosen up the inventory? I don't. I wish I did know that answer.
Yeah. Well, if we knew that answer, that crystal ball we have back here would be humming. But you're 100% right. It's many different things. I took a quick opportunity because we talked about I can't remember the shows that's trying to come together. I think it was on last Tuesday when we had the Herpes on. I'm starting to now look. I've been looking week over week. Now I'm starting to look. Okay, what happened in the first 3 weeks of January versus the first 3 weeks of January of last year, and there's some interesting trends as far as the inventory goes. Just to pick Albemarle County, we have, this is no new construction. I never put new construction because they kind of skewed the numbers a little bit. We have 61 homes on the market right now. That's just total in the county. Last year, this time, we had 61 sales. I apologize. We had 61 sold this year. Last year, we had 73. Every single one of the counties, Charlottesville, Albemarle, Fluvanna, Greene, Louisa, and Nelson, were all upside down. There were more sold in the first 3 weeks of January than there is now. These are sold and closed. Actually, with the exception of Fluvanna. Fluvanna was just about on par. 20 units versus 23. 20 last year, 23 this year. So that's pretty close. So, but the lack of the inventory, we talk about this consistently. I just don't know the magic answer, and we bring a lot of smart people on to talk about that. You want to jump in from your perspective on that, Nikki? Look at that, I got your name.
Yay! I was waiting for you to call me Jim or something. No, so
You should talk
I
to my
think-
children.
No, I get it because I have that same problem. I just yell out random names until the right child comes running, and it works for the most part.
I get my children's names confused with the dog.
Oh.
So I call for the wrong person, and he comes running down the stairs all happy to see me. And
You're like, nope, didn't mean you.
No,
I got it even worse. I get my children's name confused, and I only have one child.
Oh no!
That's even worse right there. I love you, son.
Okay,
Yeah,
Very valid,
but let me jump in. But when you ask for something and the dog's name comes, does he actually do it?
He tries.
Yeah,
he
see?
tries.
And
I
maybe
give
the
him a
kid-
treat. He tried to. I said, have you finished your homework? You look over at the book bag. All right, that's it.
What about the kids, though?
The kids don't deserve
Right,
treats.
that was funny.
I'm sorry, we digress.
No, so I think that I almost feel like one of the questions that we need to be asking instead of what can we do about inventory, because I don't know, right? Nobody knows. This is just a big conundrum, right? Is how can we manage this market? It is what it is. What are we going to do about it? How can we help manage people's expectations? Right? I mean, that's really a big thing.
You hit on it right there, because 90% of what we do as real estate agents is set expectations.
In any market, absolutely.
And
Yes.
I think realtors have learned, as buyers have over this past 2-year period, a lot. And what we've learned is how to be competitive. Depending on the area, you're always looking at an escalation clause. You're always looking at multiple bids. You're looking at people waiving home inspection or the expectation that they would ask for any repairs. Anything to be competitive, and that's how our market has shifted in the past 2 years. And and I always tell people, okay, so let's put an escalation clause. We already know there's 3 other offers coming in on this property. So I want you to think about the absolute top number you're willing to pay for this. And then say, all right, I got it. Now put another $2,000 onto that and let's write it up.
Oh, one of the conversations I've had before, I was like, okay, with that number, would you cry if you missed it? Because for some people, it is, that's the one. They found
Absolutely.
it. And if you would cry if you missed it, then
Right.
I would like for you to rethink what you're considering.
And how many times have you told somebody, we're going to put our best and highest up, what is that number? And then you find out after the fact, they lose it. And then they find out after the fact, they lost it for $500. Craig, if I'd known that, I'd have put, well, see, when we had that
Yes.
conversation about best and highest, that's what that was.
Yes.
So talk me through that. How do you have that conversation? I'm your buyer, right? How do you have that conversation with me? Because I obviously don't want to overpay,
Yes.
right? Nobody ever wants to overpay. So how is that conversation look for me, and how are you going to protect me?
Great question. And things are so flippy-floppy right now because as buyers agents, we are always trying to get a deal for the buyer. But in this market, the only thing we're trying to do is get the deal itself, not a deal. So you just have to explain it to them, especially when you know there's multiple offers. There are going to be people who are going to be doing this. There are going to be people who are doing this. And ultimately, if somebody comes in with an all-cash offer, you're probably just not going to win it. So you set the expectations once again. You say, what's the most you're willing to pay for this house? Let's just use fake numbers, $300,000. Would you be willing to pay $320,000? Yes, I would. Okay, so of course you add on another $1,000 to that because that could be the difference in getting it or not. And then you explain to them, of course, that even though we might be paying a little bit more for this house than you want to, you still have the appraisal process, which will protect you. So that's a third independent, it doesn't care
Do you
about the
write in your
transaction.
deals now that the home must appraise for full contract price? Are you doing that now?
Yeah.
So that's almost a foregone conclusion now.
And I think in the general
Unless
phrasing,
cash.
it's kind of in there anyway. But yeah, so that's how you pacify them and let them know, you won't overpay for this property if the system has its way.
How many of the deals have you done, have you waived the home inspection contingency?
Like completely just waived it and not done the home inspection, or just waived the
Both.
So in a competitive market, I always recommend waiving any expectation of repairs.
Good
Because it
night.
just gives you that much. And maybe you're competing against an all-cash buyer and they want a home inspection, so they're weighing that out. I could be stuck with $5,000 worth of repair. At the end of the day, when we close, I still get it's still a cash offer.
So in that scenario, what you're saying is your client is doing a deal saying, we want a home inspection just to know what is potentially wrong with the home. The deal is not contingent on any repairs from that report.
Correct. And if we're offering on a relatively new home in a hot market and we know it's going to be
You don't
tight,
even do that.
I just say, let's just waive this home inspection. The house is 6 years old. Appliances are going to last 10 years, typically speaking.
Keith, you want to jump in here?
Oh, I sure do, but I saw Nikki's eyes light up, so I'm going to let Nikki take a stab at this because
Team leader,
I feel
Keller
like we were in
Williams.
the same brain right
I want-
there.
I want-
The brand new team leader,
Yeah.
congratulations.
I'm official, y'all.
She's official.
Yeah, I'm not interim anymore.
That's awesome. Congrats. So hold on, Nikki.
Yeah,
For you, friend.
thank you.
Now, immediately when you heard that, your shoulders prickled a little bit. I noticed.
Oh, well, because my question was, okay, so when you are still having that home inspection done, is this a pass-fail situation? Like if there's something seriously wrong, are they able to?
Yeah.
No.
If the
Okay.
back corner
Our
of the house
chemistry
is
is working.
sinking into the ground
Yeah.
slowly, they can walk away.
Awesome. Just checking.
So let's be clear, so everybody's watching this path here. So you are suggesting, and I don't disagree with this path that you're talking about, but you're not suggesting waiving the overall home inspection contingency. You're just doing.
He said on new houses, yes.
Well,
Waiving any expectation of repairs.
that's it. So that's a pass or fail scenario.
Exactly.
So that's a very important distinction of what we're
Right.
talking about, because you can waive the whole home inspection thing, which means there is not an addendum attached to the contract, which means they lose one of their get out of jail free cards.
Exactly.
But correct me if I'm wrong. You did say at a new house you don't even do it. Did you say that?
So what I said is, and once again, this is all a matter of how hot and heavy these folks are for this house and how competitive it is. If the house is 5, 6, 7 years old, we have a pretty good estimation that the house is in good shape. So, and you have to weigh it, you have to explain it to them. If you just waive it all together, that makes you look really good. That gives you a lot of leverage. But that one little thing that's built into the process that gives you the protection is no longer there.
So why this conversation is so important, and why this conversation of bringing trusted advisors, we've been hitting this term, these two words for what now, 3 years now, Jerry? Darn near 3 years. Trusted advisor. Nelson County, right? 2022, first 3 weeks, 3 streaks, 17 units closed. Last year there was 32 units, almost double the amount of units. The days on market this year is 5. 2021 was 13. 2022's median sales price is 367. Last year's is 324. Year over year, we're getting worse, right? And so you have to have these conversations like, okay, if this inventory is flying off the market, just this last week, we had 26 new units in our footprint come on the market, 86 went into pending. That's a 3 1/3 ratio. For every home that came on, 3 1/3 homes went off. So it's important to navigate this conversation and have it. And Jerry's not that far off mark. We are having conversations with people to say, I want to waive it altogether.
Right?
Altogether.
It's terrifying.
Because maybe these people have lost 4 or 5 or 6
Or
homes
10.
in a row, and they're just emotionally beat up. So they're like, what do I have to do to get into a home? So then you have to advise them.
So we won't describe clients and names and locations, but Yona took a client out yesterday to look at a home in Albemarle County. It's in a neighborhood that's moving pretty darn fast. I happen to have a Class A general contractor's license, and Yona actually brought a home inspector with them for the showing. And then there was a question, and I got FaceTimed in. What do you think about this? Can I remove this column? Can I do this? And we navigated that through that whole process, and still didn't get the deal.
Who'd you lose it to? What kind of offer?
I won't know.
Not sure?
Won't
Till
know
close?
Won't know until
Yeah.
it closes. Yeah, won't know. But we didn't get it, and the agent on the other side wouldn't share. So I don't know. But that's a tactic that we've been employing pretty much for a year. If this is a home that everybody loves, from looking online in our digital curb appeal, did I get that right?
You did get it right. Yes, you did.
Like, he keeps me straight. There's Yona and
Somebody's
Jerry,
got
and
to.
they're kind of on the same
They're your
thing.
bumpers.
But they looked at it, they fell in love with it, and we brought a home inspector with us.
I'll throw this to you guys. Okay, you guys are the pros. I just learned from you guys. You have, even though rates are going up, we still have obscenely low interest rates.
Absolutely.
And interest rate in the 3s or at least even 4s is obscenely low, and the ridiculous of cheap money right there.
Right.
Right? We have new construction over the last 15, 20 years that has not kept pace with demand. We have a market that is extremely hot. Everyone wants to live in Charlottesville for the reasons you outlined in the beginning why you and your wife moved here. We have the University of Virginia creating more jobs than they ever have before. We're not sure of the impact, but we can guess the impact School of Data Science is going to have on Ivy Road in Charlottesville, right? We know that a number of out-of-market firms are setting up shop in Charlottesville to poach the talent from UVA to hire for their firms. This doesn't seem like, Craig, I'll throw it to you, it's going to remedy itself anytime soon. I'm talking like 12 months, 24 months, maybe even longer. Your thoughts on that? Anywhere you want to go?
You mean specifically on the lack of inventory that we're talking
the
about?
The buyer being in this precarious circumstance.
I think going into 22, Jerry, the inventory is not going to come back. But I think things are still going to potentially soften up a little bit. And we're starting to see very early indicators of this. It's so funny. The Car Quarterly report comes out 4 times a year, obviously. And when we get that report, we typically know as boots on the ground professionals who are doing this daily, we kind of get a feel of all this stuff as it's happening. So when the car report comes out, it just kind of, legitimizes what we already feel. I think moving into next year,
You're talking 2023 or 2022?
2023?
This year.
Okay.
I'm talking this year into 2022. I think things are going to slow down, and I think it's probably, and I am the eternal optimist.
Okay.
I always look on the sunny side of things. I think between consumer confidence, I think there's a lot of buyer fatigue out there. People are just getting kicked around and losing house after house. And the inflation, there's just and you got this stuff going on in Russia. If that pops off, that could really affect a lot of different things. I think things will kind of organically start to slow down, even though the lack of inventory is going to continue. I think there's a lot of people who were pre-approved to purchase a house 6 months ago that no longer can purchase that same house because it's gone up in value that much.
So we're going to.
And rates have gone up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I think the rates going up a little bit is actually going to loosen inventory a little bit,
We hope.
in my opinion. But just so everybody understands, these numbers that I'm throwing around, these number of units, 2021 versus 2022, they're lagging indicating numbers, right? 'Cause these are homes that were under contract 30, 45 days ago that closed last week or the week before. So we're going to track that on a month-over-month basis. What I'm really curious to see what April's going to look like and March is going to look like, where folks that went under contract now. But the reality of it is the market is doing exactly what you're talking about. It is walking back a little bit, and it's walking back from a volume of it because, I just ran Lake Monticello because for me it's easy. It's one subdivision, 4,500 lots. It's easy to run. We got 13 homes on the market, 27 are in pending right now, and the median days on market on a sold is 15 days. And if you take a look at what's on the market right now that's under 15 days, there's only 3 homes. So out of 13, there's only 3 homes that are under 15 days. Everything else is 50, there's 165, there's 70, there's 90. So that means there's some other issues going on there other than what the normal market is saying it wants. So in reality, there's only 3 homes for sale.
Right. I did the exact same thing this morning. There's approximately 4,000 homes at the lake, and I went and looked active, and I think I came up with 9, but that wasn't active with a kick out or anything. So 9 homes out of 4,000. And in a usual year, pre-COVID, and even the year pre-COVID, we were dealing with a lack of inventory. We still had 3.5 months of inventory.
So, Craig,
Yes.
super great point to bring out, and please, if you can put your memory banks into place. What do we call it? 19 is pre-COVID? Is that a fair
So
year?
COVID happened in
2020?
2020 March.
March, yep,
Okay.
absolutely.
ACC tournament was canceled, 2020 March.
And rates were somewhere in the 4.5% to 5% range,
Yeah.
depending on where you were at. that
Still
point.
cheap money.
Still cheap money.
Still
How,
cheap.
were you,
Yeah.
how were you doing in 2019? How was business?
I was doing very well.
You were crushing it.
I was doing very well.
Yeah.
Of course, we always do very well. We
Yeah.
work very
Yes,
hard.
yes.
We work very hard.
Well, that's because you're married to somebody who's a rock star.
That is
I know
true.
that feeling. By
That
the
is
way.
true. You know what it's like to marry up.
Yeah, you guys outkicked your coverage. But to your point, you guys work extremely hard. You also
Yes.
have the benefit in working in an insulated market that people want to move to. where homes move very quickly.
They do.
That helps. That's a tailwind. You have to give me that.
Part of our
Absolutely.
challenge of inventory, though.
That's
I
true.
mean, that
And
is-
Charlottesville's an insulatory market, and a lot of people don't understand that. Even when '08 happened, and it kicked us in the teeth a little bit,
We were more protected.
but nothing like the rest of the country. Arizona, Florida, all of these, that just got decimated.
Are we
It
talking
took
about
them
the time of
years.
great unpleasantness? Is that what we're talking about?
Well, you were a developer. You were in a different
No,
position.
I was still doing real estate at that, selling real estate at that time. Look,
Yeah.
here's another thing that's happening in our market, right? Because, everybody's realizing this, and just from boots on the ground, we're boots on the ground all the time. Are you seeing an influx of agents from outside the area quite a
Oh
bit?
my God! Look, we're seeing agents coming in from Fredericksburg. We're seeing them coming in from Richmond. And it's got to be just because there's nothing there for them to do that they're just expanding out.
Yeah.
And it's predictable. If you were to convey what this looks like to somebody a year ago, they would say, "Well, I guess you're going to get competed with from outside the area agents." Yeah, I mean it's happening a lot.
To add to that point, Christy Lynn Beck, Gunnell's team, who's come on this show,
It's coming on the 31st.
she focuses on the lake, lives in the lake. She's driving clients to Williamsburg and beyond.
Yeah.
She said it in that chair,
Yeah.
on the microphone, to Williamsburg and beyond.
Wow. Before the past year, I'd never seen anybody selling homes at the lake that weren't local agents. And now I'm seeing a lot from Richmond, more than anything. Once again, it's just the natural nature of a lack of inventory.
We put a home on the market at the Acres, which is a subdivision I built that I happen to live in, inside Lake Monticello. We put it on the market coming soon, a few days before it actually got done. I had nothing but Northern Virginia agents calling. I need to set up an appointment on this. We went live, I think, Saturday morning or whatever it was, during a snowstorm, by the way.
Of course.
These people, the agents were coming down. So we love what we do. We love to help people. You've got 13 homes currently on the market at Lake Monticello. I think in reality you only have 3 on the market on it. You've got the Lake Monticello agents. You've got people coming from Northern Virginia. What sets you apart? Why should we be using, and why, this is a question I get asked all the time, why should we use somebody local, right? Why should we use somebody, as you're referring to, boots on the ground? Give me my elevator pitch, if you don't mind.
Well, I mean, if you're operating in an area, call it Northern Virginia, and then you're coming down to really on the southern point of where you really should be, those folks have no idea what the local customs and norms and strategies, they just don't get it. Every area is very much insulatory to all the other areas. If I'm from Richmond, and if I was to leave over here and go to Richmond and start operating, it would take me a year or two just to understand what that market was like, So you always need a local professional, always.
So if I want to buy in Richmond, you're going to refer me out to somebody
Absolutely.
in Richmond. You want to talk a little bit about how that works? How referrals work?
Sure, I've got some great working relationships with agents in Richmond. Most of them are Keller Williams, not all of them, because good agents are good agents, right?
Yes, they are.
And when you refer somebody, you just want them to be taken care of. There's a lady in the Midlothian office who sends all of her referrals to us, and everybody in her office that brings up, I've got somebody moving to Charlottesville, let me hook you up with Craig and Kendra. And once you develop these relationships, you're developing lifelong relationships. So they are very valuable.
I just referred somebody out to England.
Whoa,
Very
nice. What does that look like?
It's the same process. It's really no different, right? It was actually a Keller Williams agent. They've got Keller Williams offices out there. We reached out into our referral program. I did a phone interview, right, just to make sure that Jerry in England is a good match with Craig on that end of stuff. We referred them out. We keep a track of them. We communicate back and forth. Works out. We do quite a bit of referral work. We like doing it. It's a lot of fun.
So what's the ball saying? What's the crystal ball saying for the rest of the year? You've touched on this already, Craig. How about you, Nikki?
Gosh, so sorry, my brain was in that whole referral conversation. The rest of the year, I think it's just going to be what it's hard. It's hard to be in real estate, and it's never been an easy industry, right? So this is not new. It's just at a different level. And it's not a blanket statement for everywhere, right? We have our market. It is different. I think it's a lot harder to work in this market than it is some other areas because our inventory is much more constricted than some other areas because of all the things we've talked about today. People want to move here. There is a list of people waiting to move here. So for everyone that decides to go live in Richmond because it's easier to find a house there, let's just say, for example, there are several more lined up waiting to buy one in Charlottesville.
And we also live in a market which is small by nature, and I think last time I looked it up, 1 in 118 people in Charlottesville are licensed real estate agents.
I've said it's the third most competitive field in Central Virginia. Number one most competitive field is restaurants. The subset within restaurants is coffee shops. You look everywhere, there's coffee shops. And you guys are in the third most competitive field in Central Virginia.
I believe it.
I mean, that's bananas.
And you know, the interesting thing is with every single market, it's always the same. 80% of the market is dominated by 20% of the agents.
Yeah, it might be even more than that. Like top 10, 15% of the agents do what percent of the business? That's something I learned from Tommy Brannick.
But these numbers are changing because of this influx from outside
Correct.
agents that are coming in to go ahead and take a look at it.
And the best thing for you guys, and I don't know if flack was the right word, but a little bit of, well, you were on the show, when I called it the hobbyist agent.
Yep.
The hobbyist agent may find itself, his or herself, out of the game because of these trends, which could help this table and this panel that is the 24/7, 365 agent. You know what I mean by the hobbyist agent? The 1 or 2 deals a year agent?
Right.
Yeah, so if you take a look at the numbers nationwide, and same thing within car, there's 50% of the agents don't have any transactions, right? So that whole 80% ratio and all of it gets a little skewed because you got to carve off 50% of them and all that kind of great stuff. But look, I'm probably going to get myself into trouble by asking this, but you're a pro, right? Absolutely, you and your wife are pros. If you have an agent on the other side that's not a pro, this is maybe their first or second transaction, how do you manage that?
Well, realistically, what happens is we end up doing a lot of the work for them. And we're happy to do it because we're getting the transaction done.
You keep control.
You're giving out good vibes to the universe because you're helping somebody. And you can help somebody who's on the opposite side of a transaction without giving up your fiduciary duty to your client. But realistically, you do a lot more work than you would have.
So I prefer the term coaching and mentoring. So that's
Okay.
that's and I thank you for saying that because that's what I wanted to say. We tend to coach and mentor what Jerry refers to as hobbyists, but the 1 or 2 agent on the end of it, and
The 1 or 2 deal agent per year.
And thank you. And so my approach on that is if I can help Craig, which of course you're not in this realm here, but if I can help you manage this transaction a little bit better and learn a little bit more, then you'll be that much better, and it makes the industry better.
It all comes back. Absolutely.
Yeah, the good karma thing always always comes.
Comments coming in from viewers. Daniel Pettit, Real Estate 3, says, as of now in Lake Monticello, and he's got statistics for you. Bob Yarborough, we'll get to your comment as well. Pettit's got an indication of what the market is doing in Lake Monticello. 13 active at the lake now, 3 are ones to be built. Questions coming in for Craig. This is from Grayson. Craig mentions the Russia-Ukraine friction. Does he have any perspective to offer on the stock market and how it could impact the real estate market?
Well, that's a great question. And we've seen it, the stock market and the real estate market operate similarly, that you could have something happening on the other side of the world that seemingly has nothing to do with good old US of A. But it does. It's the question mark thing, and anytime there's a question mark, that affects local markets, be it the stock market, the real estate market. Prime example, Nelson, a couple years ago, the pipeline. It was a question. Nobody knew what was going to happen, and their numbers just plummeted because of this big question mark. Of course, they got past it, and they knew, okay, we're fine, and everything's good, and now their numbers are better than ever. But yeah, anything that happens, big scheme across the globe, can affect local markets.
Correct.
We're talking consumer confidence.
Consumer confidence has an awful lot to do with it. And a lot of it could have to do with federal responses to overseas things. They're all tied together, though.
I think you're right. I think the pipeline failing, right? But the fact that they got fiber right in Nelson was really more of a driving factor than I think, particularly since, but real estate is all about timing, right? Timing is everything, right? And so as the pipeline failed, COVID started coming up, and people were remote working. They've had the fiber, they had the product at the time, and that's the reason why, 2021 they had 32 sales versus 17 so far in closings, excuse me.
And I think they're up like 57% in price.
I believe it was 53, but yeah, it's awfully close.
It's just crazy. And there was a lot of that was pent up demand because of all the fence sitters during the pipeline debacle. So
are you in your crystal ball, are you seeing the outer counties having more growth potential than, say, the center of the city or the particular growth area?
Absolutely. And a lot of it has to do with just the inherent cost of living in Albemarle County, certainly living in Charlottesville proper. And one of the advantages we have in our local market is it is a small market. So you could live in Fluvanna, or you could live in Louisa or Nelson County and still only drive 35 minutes to get to work. But your dollar goes so much farther in these exterior areas. But those exterior areas are also coming up in price because of said factors.
So Fluvanna, year over year, the first 3 weeks, this is without new construction, and this includes Lake Monticello, and so this is county as a whole. 2022, the median sales price is 306. 2021 is 257. So I'm pretty sure that's a 50 grand uptick year over year. So that's the first 3 weeks, of this year versus that's sold and closed on that. So our inventory is dropping. Our days on market has upped a little bit in Fluvanna County from 5 to 8. It's just because there's no inventory.
And the cost is double digits.
The cost is double digits. So,
Yeah.
I don't see these trends going anywhere, and you really need this trusted advisor, the folks that really understand their business, that can sit down. And I really appreciate what you said about this is a education business. That's what we're really in.
Absolutely.
Right? We educate, we re-educate. This is what Jerry and I have been doing for 3 years. We educate, re-educate. Sometimes we repeat ourselves, or at least I do anyway.
Well,
kind of it.
It's
why don't we
required,
go ahead,
though.
Nikki?
No, that repetition, though, it's required. It's important. That's part of educating.
We got more comments coming in for you guys, and we'll welcome agents from Nest, Keller Williams, Real Estate 3, Long and Foster, and who else is on this feed here? A couple from Long and Foster. All right, for Craig and for the panel here, how about the mask topic and conversation and how it could drive real estate and people purchasing homes within certain school districts? Anyone want to tackle that one from multiple moms on the feed here? Today, the governor, Youngkin, newly elected governor, pulled the mandate with masks in schools, as we all know. So now the parent and the child can determine whether or not they wear the mask in school or not. A lot of school boards and school divisions are opposing the governor's decision and saying you will wear it. And this is as hot a topic probably even hotter a topic than interest rates in this community. Who wants to touch this subject?
Well, I'll just go ahead and start
How
to
about
say
them
that
Mets?
I got a text from Albemarle County several days ago saying, hey, I just want to let you guys know we are requiring masks still. So Albemarle County is definitely one of those. My kiddo goes to Monticello High.
So is Charlottesville High School.
I'm not surprised by
Charlottesville
this at all.
schools.
Yeah.
Orange County is not.
Okay.
Madison County, Greene County, saying masks are optional, parents' decision. Covenant School, Charlottesville Catholic School, masks optional, parents' decision.
So your question is will that impact the real estate market? Is that your question?
That's
John?
not my question. That's the mom's question.
Yes.
Yeah.
Crystal
Frank, do you
ball.
want to hit that one?
So my crystal ball is a little foggy right now. That's we're operating in a environment, Jerry, that this chapter's not been written. There is nobody alive right now doing real estate who has ever seen anything like this.
That's true.
Yeah.
So, this is uncharted territory, and my guess is if you want to send your kid to school and have them mask up, you can do that in almost any school. And if you don't want them to mask up, there are some schools that you can send them to.
Does that drive purchases in certain zip codes?
I don't know. It just seems like such a ancillary thing, but to
Is this the new broadband trend?
but to some people, it could be very important.
So I think that's the right answer. It's
Yeah.
what's important to the individual at this particular point in time. So I think the bigger question is this here to stay?
Yeah.
Right? That's the bigger question, right? Is this here to stay? And if the answer to that is, what I mean by this, I mean Corona.
We know Corona's here to stay.
Yeah.
The common cold is a coronavirus. That's something that everybody overlooks. We've been dealing with this forever. And they've been trying to find a vaccine for the common cold forever.
Yep.
And
Flu
never
is a good
have.
example. Yeah.
So
everybody that's the professionals at this table here, we should stay away from coaching to or leading to school systems and all that stuff. So what we do is we're the source of the source, right?
Right.
So we provide the information to do this. For the individual buyer, how I would ask for them, it's what's important to Jerry.
Yep.
It's what's important to, so if to Mr. and Mrs. Miller, this is important that my children, because I'm going to be in this house for 10 years, right? Because that's the average according to National Association of Realtors. Most folks are now in their homes for 10 years. That jumped, by the way, by 5 years.
Oh, yeah.
On that end of it, and your children are going to be, then it's going to be the school system that meets your expectations and where you want to have your children. Our role is, once you say, this is where I want to be, and this is the school system I want to be in, is to help you find that home.
I'm curious if in descriptions of listings, Brittany Gray, welcome to the program. She's an agent. She's very vocal with her stance on masks.
Yeah,
To
sure.
the point we're having an exchange on Facebook Messenger right now of her coming on the show to discuss an event that she has from a masking standpoint in Fluvanna County tonight at Danny's Bar and Grill. Okay? Are we going to see in descriptions of listings, like we see broadband, right? Are we going to see school district with the mask designation? And will that drive the selling of homes?
So every one of us went,
We know right now.
because what that does,
Crozet boomed. Why did Crozet boom? In part because of damn good schools. Is that safe to say, Craig?
Crozet's thought of as the good school.
Yeah. Right. It's no secret. Western's been dubbed Stab West by a lot of people. We know that's why Crozet boomed. Will that be in designations for real estate sales descriptions moving forward? Mask or no mask school districts?
I don't think so. And
You
here's my thought, because I think that
Got a
people
lot of
who
moms
are
watching right here.
well, but here's the reason why, because all of those moms, they know which schools require masking and which don't. There's not a single one of them who are wondering if a school requires masking. So I feel like adding that information.
So will it drive momentum
So the
to
question
buy
that
in
we're-
certain zip codes?
So the
It's-
question we're asking
yeah.
here, and this is very slippery slope, folks, right? Because we're talking fair housing.
More comments coming in about this here.
Yeah, I understand that, and I'm gonna probably be a buzzkill on this a
Go
little
for it.
bit, because we have to be extremely careful what we put in there, because it could potentially violate fair housing. You can't
Yes.
say this school system is better than that school system. You can't put that in the public comments, because
This is something I probably should talk about on the I Live Seville show at 12:30, that
Well-
this panel cannot talk about on this show at 10:15.
My advice is to that real estate agent, they better have a conversation with their broker before they start putting stuff in public comments on
I'll
that.
talk about this at 12:30 on our show, on the I Live Seville show. We can
But-
sidestep this
No,
topic.
there's
It
no
sounds like
side-
This is what you want to do.
No.
No, we don't have to
But the
sidestep it, but
answer
it's
is-
important to know what you just said.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the answer to it is extremely simple.
Yeah, you guys can't talk schools. Realtors can't talk schools.
We
when it
can't
comes down to
talk
it.
schools, we
Yeah.
can't put in there, but what we can do is we can give you
School data.
school data, give you the place to
Absolutely.
go, and then let your client make that decision on how they want to move forward. It's an extremely slippery slope
There you go.
Yep.
You want to add anything? Want to add on that?
I think that was perfect.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
What it comes down to is fair housing is what really, really matters.
Yep.
And us following those rules, that is incredibly important. As a realtor, as a Keller Williams agent, yeah.
I will act for the moms that are asking these questions. I will save them and touch on them later. This is a different topic. Bob Yarborough, Southside Charlottesville, urban ring. So at one point, and maybe we've reached that point already, does the inventory issue become an impact on economic development and growth? Think about this. From an economic development standpoint, and you're trying to bring a business to town, Charlottesville's the perfect place for your company, but your relocated team members will have a hell of a time finding a home. That's a fair topic there.
So, and you know, to go back on the school thing, I think we navigated that very professionally and above board. So,
Well, you sidestepped it. Yeah, I mean, let's
Well,
cut to the chase.
he said professionally.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there you go.
so, but the reality of it, back on the other subject, we talked about this on Friday, right? This is this resurrection of NIMBYism in the project out in Fulvana County that was rejected. That would have been 250 homes. That would have been more competitive price point on that end of it. But look, you're 100% right. What's going to happen is if these larger projects and these larger density projects do not get approved, do not increase the inventory, they will go by right, which is they'll build them by right. There'll be large, expensive homes. And then, you know, how does that impact the business environment is what the question is. And how does that impact the actual revenue from the jurisdictions? Anybody want to take a stab at that? Your opinion?
So I'll touch on that. I do think that the powers that be have the best intentions. And sometimes I think they overthink things, and sometimes I think they shoot themselves and their local community in the foot. Prime example, if you want to start a brewery or a winery or a coffee shop or a restaurant, hey, have at it. They're going to let you do it. A couple of years ago, they wanted to put a small hotel on 250 right outside of the 64 exit in Crozet. There are so many people that come to that area for wedding venues, and there's no lodging there. And so what do? They have to go over the mountain to Waynesboro, or they have to go all the way into Charlottesville for lodging. They shot down this proposed hotel, which I think was going to be where Pro Renata was eventually put. You know, sometimes we got to get out of our own way. We have to open up our economic picture and just not be so myopic in how we see things. They just thought that a hotel in Crozet just didn't fit what they thought Crozet was supposed to look like.
Well, you know, there's master plans, there's comprehensive plans that say this is what we want, this is what we don't want, and we've been having this discussion and with the elected officials on a regular basis at this table on that stuff of it. And, you know, the question becomes, are you going to, if I bring in something that meets your comprehensive plan, are we going to adopt it if I check all the boxes? Or we're going to let a vocal group sway one way or the other? And it's a tough question. I've been doing this drill for 3.5 decades. And I will tell you, when the elected official sits in that seat, that's a hard job to sit in. Right, to go ahead and do that.
I mean, this is what it comes down to. If we do not expand Albemarle County's developmental area, 5% of the county is designated for residential and commercial development, only 5% of all of Albemarle County. And if we don't expand that 5%, it's just going to put more onus and more pressure on current homeowners from a real estate tax assessment standpoint. The revenue is driven in large portion by home ownership to keep the jurisdiction afloat. So if you want to expedite gentrification and make the county more white, wealthy, keep doing what you're doing, because that's what's happening right now.
Right.
So let's
Tax assessments drive gentrification, and we all got our tax assessments in the mail. Mine just went up $1,200, and $1,200 for me versus $1,200 for somebody else are two very different things. And I'll leave it at that.
That was $1,200 for the year.
$600 every 6 months. $1,200 for the year.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a hell of a lot of money for a lot of people. $1,200.
It is,
Yes, it
and
is.
thank you for bringing that up, because I'm going to go back to this project that did not get approved in Fulvana County for this 250 units. It will be 60, 70 homes. I've done enough data. The buyer profile will be me, retiree, empty nester, master bedroom on the first floor, right? $300,000 to $500,000 purchase prices, probably closer to $400,000 to $500,000. That's what they're doing in other projects out there. Well, ultimately, what's going to happen is I'm going to be on a fixed income at some point, right? And now all of a sudden, and Neil Williamson, if he's watching, will probably correct me if I'm wrong. I've never seen a jurisdiction's budget go down. Never seen it. Never seen it.
It can't go down.
That never happened.
Labor goes up, inflation, cost of goods, gas, transportation, vehicles, roads.
Well, more important than that, it's a thing called unfunded mandates. Now, I'm going off on a tangent here. The state says, oh, by the way, Craig County, we're going to require you to do X. We're not going to give you the money to do it. You've got to get the money yourself, which means it comes off of my tax dollars.
Yep.
So the point I'm trying to get at, this is a very delicate, balanced stance that one needs to do. The reality of it is, I had dinner with my parents last night. They're retired New York City firemen on a fixed thing. Their taxes are going up. They're at a point now that they can't afford their home because of taxes.
Absolutely.
I said,
That's hard.
Here's my sister's address. You can go live with that. No, I'm only kidding. We offered them to move in. We're literally having that conversation to move in with us because they can't afford it because, frankly, in Fluvanna County, our tax rate is about the same as Albemarle County, and I bet you at the end of the day, if we exchanged our tax records, what I pay per year is pretty darn close to what you pay per year.
In taxes?
I bet you I do.
Home versus home?
Home versus home, I bet you I do. I bet you I'm within $1,000 of it.
Mine's $7,700 a year.
I'm 6.
1,700 difference. So I'll throw this out there. More comments are coming in. We cannot talk the mass comment, guys. We've already said we're not going to talk the mass comment. More moms are responding to this here.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about it. We just can't talk about it in a way to say that this is better than the other, right? We can talk about it, how it can impact the market. We can surely have that conversation, but we can't have the conversation to say X jurisdiction or X school is better than Y school.
This is from Laura for Craig specifically. Is the Crozet market at full saturation?
No, because they're still building. I do think that we're going to see a time. Old Trail is Crozet right now. That's where all the growth is. I mean, there's some other developments coming up, but I think in the near future we're going to have to see a new high school come in. There's no way that Western Albemarle can take all of these people just, flocking to Crozet. So no, they're not at full saturation, not by a long shot.
What do you think, Nikki, Keith?
Oh, no, I agree. They continue to build, and I think you're right. It's Old Trail. That is, yes, there are other things happening, but most of it is Old Trail.
Yep.
Yeah. That is.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you go first and then I'll follow up.
No, my suspicion of what's going to happen is there's going to be a push. We're going back to, do we expand the 5% area or not? I think what you're going to see happen is there's going to be a push to approve things that are within the growth area for a period of time, whatever that period of time is going to be, and then they're going to look at expand. I do not see the political will at the current and potentially future board levels from Albemarle County to talk about. They didn't even bring this up as a topic for discussion at this point. But the topic should be, okay, if you're not doing that, then let's make sure we adhere to our comp plans.
Right.
This comment, we have a lot of comments coming in on this
what's
topic.
going on?
Sorry, guys, we cannot talk about this topic.
We can talk about masks. You just need to architect the questions in such a way that we talked about. You can bring it up. Go ahead.
What are they asking?
What we're talking about, how it's going to impact things right here.
Yeah,
You've already said, check out the school's website.
Yeah, so let's talk about it. Will it impact, the basic question is, will it impact the real estate market?
Yeah.
So the answer to that is at the moment, yes. So if you are, if you are looking for a home in a certain market, that has a certain type of school system, you've done the research, and you walk to any one of the three of us at this table and say, this is the jurisdiction I want to have a home in, and this is the reason why, then we'll go ahead and help you get through that thing. We just can't tell you that this system
Preferable
is over
to
that.
But here's
over
the
that
question, though. Yes, this is significant. People care.
How
But
long is
will
that
it
gonna
make a
last?
statistical significant impact on the real estate market? I feel like that's kind of what we're trying to get at, right?
Look, the pool.
That's it right there.
Yeah, and
And you're a mom. You understand
am.
how passionate. Okay,
Don't
mama
make the mama
bears.
bear come out at me
Exactly.
because it's not pretty.
Right. Same with my wife here.
Yes.
Yeah. And this is literally the topic that was the first thing discussed today at breakfast.
And there's a whole lot of COVID life that has impacted parents in such a huge way. This is just one of so many pieces of life that we have had to adjust to and overcome. And sometimes it's hard to.
That's literally what my wife said. She said
It
it seems
is
to be
crazy
all
town.
compounding on this.
Yeah, but there's so much there. It's not even funny.
Well,
Yeah.
I agree 100% that this topic that we're talking about will impact the market more than rates will. That's for sure. I
don't know
believe-
about that. I think
Oh,
it's
no,
important, and
believe
I don't know.
Well, it all depends on the individual. Everybody looks at rates because anybody who's buying needs to know that. But if you're looking at this school district or this school district or this school district, it really matters where your point of view is and which one is applicable to your wants and needs.
So Jerry and I have this conversation all the time on
Yeah.
this stuff of it. What's happening in that red board all the way over to my left and his right, for the most part, does not impact one of our typical buyers, right? So, Craig, when you are talking to a buyer, are they having the conversation, oh my God, the stock market is tanking, I don't want to look for a house now? Does that
Depends on
No.
price point.
Depends on-
It depends on price point.
And I think that's
Yeah.
where this lands too. This whole conversation about whether or not it will impact, it depends on what price point we're talking about.
And that's really insightful, Jerry, because if you're looking at somebody who's buying a $700,000-800,000 home, they're going to be much more likely to be involved in the stock market. And if something ugly is coming, they say,
I'm
we're
pumping the
going
brakes.
to put this on pause
Yeah.
for a little bit, Craig.
Yeah.
But if you're
But
looking
a
for a
first-time
home,
buyer
yes.
and you're trying to get out of a rental situation into a homeownership situation to fix your overhead, you don't care.
Right.
Because
Or
you're
you
so
do,
desperate.
and guess what? It doesn't matter, because if you're looking for something under 300 and you want to be in a particular school
You
district.
got no choice.
Yeah.
Yes.
You got no choice. But if you're in the
Inventory.
jumbo market and up, you
have
This is
options.
all we're talking about
Yeah.
over here.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't disagree with any of that conversation.
Yeah.
But the average buyer right now, I just took a look at what the median sales prices all across the board. They're not in jumbo, right? They're in the
365.
They're in the 365, the 450 range. That average buyer, this mass discussion will be more impactful than the rate going up a quarter point.
I'm curious to see if this and we're treading carefully, ladies.
I'll keep us out of trouble.
We're treading carefully. I will save these questions, I promise. I'm curious to see if it will drive demand to Madison, Green, and Orange. Not that demand wasn't already there for Madison, Green, and Orange because of the price point of Madison, Green, and Orange, but I'm curious to see if that will drive demand even more.
So here's what's going to happen it's going to make the inventory problem even worse.
In Madison, Green, and Orange.
If that's where if Keith and Yona Smith had a child right now, and we were looking, had children at the house, and we were looking to buy, and we can afford a different area, we may make a different decision. We want to be a place that has mass. I'm not saying we would or wouldn't, but that may be our decision.
Because the situation is under law into August.
Yeah.
That's 8 months of the year.
Yeah, all this is going to end up, without a doubt, in the state Supreme Court. And this is going to be a huge cluster.
Yep.
Across the board. But from a sales perspective, I have to make a decision. Okay, it becomes price point, right? This is important to me, but I only can afford $330,000, which is or $300,000 or $250,000. I'm now by numbers driven to this individual jurisdiction. Now I got a problem because I don't like the school system for whatever reason. What do I do now, Coach?
Right.
Well, and I feel like this is
And
just
by the way,
augmenting.
excuse me, let me
Okay.
get this out.
Yep.
Oh, by the way, my rent just went up 7% or 10%, and now I have to move.
I got Jim Hingley direct text messaging me right now about this. Commonwealth's Attorney, Balmoral County. You see
Oh, my
the
goodness.
text right here
Yeah.
about what we're talking about right here.
Yep.
Yeah, this is a great topic. We can continue to talk about it. Just reiterate, I can't say Albemarle's better than Flavanna.
No.
Or that,
Well, you haven't done that.
And I will not do
You,
that.
you have not done that.
But we
you've
can talk about the topic.
been
for
very
sure.
cautious about that. But literally, this
Yes.
is what's happening here.
But I feel like what you just said about this particular topic is the challenge regardless of what topic we're talking about. Hey, I can only afford this much. And while this,
Well,
and
it
this
makes
are
it
really
worse.
important to me, it does. It's augmenting a problem that's already there, which I feel like is what a lot of this
I'm
last 2
sitting
years
down with
has
one
been,
of, we're sitting
period.
down, Craig and I are sitting down with one of these moms, and they need to move, and they're in a rental environment, and my rent's going up, and I want to buy, and the rates are going up, I want to do this. Oh my God,
Yes.
what am I going to do with my kid?
Yeah.
Real estate, I've been saying this for 3 years, is never about money, never about numbers. It's always about relationships and emotions. It's always about Trey. It's always about my grandchildren. It's always about some emotional thing that we need to figure out how we can help that client manage that expectation.
Yep.
It's not about, hey, is it an extra $50 a month? It's
Right.
never about that.
From Twitter, live streaming on every social media platform this show. From Twitter for Craig, does he think the upzoning in the city is going to impact things? If so, how?
Great question.
For Craig.
That's
Follow that, Craig?
that's a great question, and I think Keith would probably have better insight on that one than
Look at
myself.
that, You're good in this setting. Defer out. Look, we've kind of covered this to death a little bit on this end of it. I'm on the record to say that the impact of the total number of units in Charlottesville on this is not going to be what everybody thinks it's going to be. This is not going to be many, many, many thousands of additional units. It may be, 1,000 or 2,000 or something like this. So it's not going to have as a large of an impact that everybody. I can tell you from statistically where they do approve these, Oregon, Washington, Minnesota, all these different places, it did not have a huge impact, numbers wise.
So I've got a question I'd like to ask you, Keith. There's a lot of
show's
people.
over.
there's a lot of people, a lot smarter than me, and that's not hard to do, by the way.
Oh, come on now.
Who are telling me, Craig, moving into the future, your average everyday Joe, your first-time home buyer, in the near future, are not going to be able to afford to buy in Charlottesville proper.
I mean, Ray Cadell has said on the show multiple times on record, home ownership is not for everybody.
Well, of course.
See, I think
But what
that's
I'm talking about is people who want to own and have jobs and credit and all that. I think just, the general
We're already
consensus
there,
is that.
Craig, we're already there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've already there. We've already been there. This is the reason I'm blessed and to be able to volunteer, but I'm in these affordable housing spaces, and I put a ton of hours in that. A lot of smart people put in time, and we still can't figure it out. But we're there already. It's just going to get worse.
Yeah.
And if we don't increase density, it's going to get worse.
Okay, we have confirmation from the Commonwealth's Attorney of Albemarle, Jim Hingley. He's going to be on the show on Wednesday at 12:30.
Good job.
Based on this discussion, literally text message from here.
Thank you for doing that.
This is just becoming a Pandora's box across social media on this topic. We knew it would because today was the day where the gates were open, if you allow the metaphor there. I'm going to shift away from that.
Well, let's take this a little further for a second. I'd like to jump in it since you've got him tied on there. I'm curious what position the county is now in. So if the governor says this is what we're doing and the county says we're not doing it, what does that look like? What is the end game there?
Well, that topic
That's
was
the
discussed
question.
on Friday, and he texted in on Friday about that. He says it's not a criminal topic or law, it's about public policy. So he would not pursue because it's not criminal, it's public policy.
Yeah, so what the real impact on this, Mr. Miller, is if the state decides to withhold funding, that's the impact.
And we discussed that on Friday as well. The Lieutenant Governor of Virginia has indicated on the record to Fox News 8 days ago that if public school systems do not follow what Youngkin's going to do, funding will be withheld to public school systems that do not respond, and that very much could impact you guys.
That's exactly
at
right.
this table.
That's exactly right.
If that happens.
And more importantly, take a look at the budgets, because we're in budget cycles right now for all the jurisdictions. Take a look at how much the school systems are funded by the state.
Oh, yeah.
It's a huge amount.
Oh, yeah.
Local dollars are quite minimal, actually. It's generally federal and state monies that makes up most of the budgets. Neil Williamson should surely help us with this on the specific numbers. So if it goes that track, Jerry's spot on, because that means, well, if we're going to dig in our heels and not do this, they got to come up with that money somehow.
Right.
And you know what that's going to lead to?
More taxes.
No, that's going to lead to parents looking for private school options away from public school options.
I think-
and that could
Alternative
lead to the
education.
watering down of certain districts and zip codes.
Well, I can assure you that's happening already, and that's
Yeah.
been happening for quite some time.
And that is the entire value proposition of Crozet, or one of the main value props of Crozet, is the schools. I would say priority number one of why that became so popular is the schools.
So I can say without getting myself into trouble too bad, that if we are representing a buyer that wants to go in Crozet that has children, the primary reason they want to go there is because of the school system.
No doubt.
So that is not crossing any lines in our conversation here.
Nope.
So, it's only gonna make it more. But yeah, this is a great conversation.
Craig, your thoughts on hot zip codes or regions for the next calendar year or 24 months?
So you're always going to be looking at Charlottesville and Albemarle, in my guesstimation.
Really?
Always.
Still?
Absolutely.
Why do you don't think that's going to price? You think people respond to the price increases?
Well, yeah, I mean, you're going to have responses to that.
Like
People are
testing,
going to want to be in Albemarle or Charlottesville, and then when they get priced out, then they're going to go out 5 miles and try to be as close in as possible. But that's always going to be your target, for the most part, your target zone for most people.
Okay, fantastic. He's dropping knowledge here. We'll get that into the mic from you there. Nikki Chambliss, jump in here.
Well, as far as that goes, I think then your next step is going to be people are going to move out to what? Green, Louisa, and Fluvanna. I know that's what I did personally when I first moved to
Nelson.
the area. Or Nelson, yep. See, but when I first moved to the area, I was already, this was what, 2008, and 2008? I was priced out of the area then.
Do you think?
And so I was looking at Green and Fluvanna.
Yeah, but now it's maybe Buckingham, right?
So here's the challenge, though, is that drive is further away than Green and like Gordonsville, right? Gordonsville is only a, what, 35-minute drive?
And then you also
Depending
have
on
the
where
broadband
in
issue.
Charlottesville. And then you also have the broadband issue.
And some
So-
people who are looking to buy in our local market, and then they look at Buckingham, the school district, they may compare those and say, I like this one better, from what they're looking at.
I've definitely had buyers have that conversation
I've had a
with
lot
me.
of buyers tell me
Yes.
that.
So.
What are you saying?
I love this show. I'm literally getting texts from from attorneys for different school systems in the area.
Wow.
On that stuff, on this mass topic. Literally, my phone is blowing
Who's
up.
texting?
They've asked me not to say the names,
Oh,
but
man.
It'll be interesting to see how this plays out.
But
In my
it's
office
this is going to be a line in the sand, guys.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I've been saying
It's going to be a
here.
line in the sand, and it's not going to be about masks. It's going to be about money.
Why don't we close with this? How about hot neighborhoods for Craig?
Gosh. Once again, I'm going to go back to Charlottesville and Albemarle. People are really, it's so interesting. When people used to call me 5 years ago and say, hey, I'm coming in from the area, I've worked a long time, I've acquired some wealth, and I want to be in a place where there's a lot of other people like me. Where would somebody like me go? And I would tell them, statistically, you're looking at Keswick, Glenmore, that's where people with a lot of wealth have worked hard. But that's shifted now, and now that seems to be going over to Crozet. And I think a lot of it has to do with this new trend of walkability. People don't like McMansions quite so much. So you're finding more modest homes. Certainly there are big homes in Crozet as well. But yeah, I think, Crozet is going to be on the top of most people's list.
I agree. Anything you want to add there?
Well, I think also when you're talking about hot neighborhoods, it depends on what we're looking at. like, I think Willoughby's been quite the hot neighborhood as of late, because it is one of the, usually lower priced for the area neighborhoods. And in the last, year and a half, 2 years, more houses in that neighborhood have moved than they have in a long time. But it's also a very small neighborhood. And it's also in the city of Charlottesville and in Albemarle County. So depending on what you're looking for, it's also detached and attached. So it's not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but it's 2 miles away from downtown, and it's maybe a mile from the interstate. And, don't forget Wegmans, right? So it just depends on what you're looking for.
Right.
Forest Lakes is a hot neighborhood depending on what you're looking for.
Lake Renovia, Mill Creek.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Redfields.
We
Right
listed
there.
one over there, and it sold for $50,000 over asking, cash, and we had like 30 showings in a weekend, and it's a great location.
Affinity across the way, right? Yeah. I mean,
You got
there's
Wegmans. It's an
just-
older neighborhood, so you got big trees. It's not sparse looking like some parts of Old Trail tend to be. Yeah,
Craig, you're very good at this.
thank you.
Very good at this, seriously.
I appreciate
Yes.
that.
Very good at this. Keith, anything you want to close with?
Yeah, so a couple of things. I look at our market as a region now, right? Back in the day, we would look in different locations and all this stuff. The real estate market, I've been saying this forever, is 5 things: location, price, features, condition, and timing, which is the 5th one that I've added over the last couple of years. So, looking at the inventory, looking at the buyer pool, looking at all the different things, they're all hot markets that are in this area. It's just really a matter of what your price point is that you can do. And then it's a matter of hiring a trusted advisor and an educator who can help you navigate through this and set your expectations. So, thank you for coming. Our pre-coffee meeting was, I promised you it would be easy and fun. Did I lie?
You were spot on.
There you go.
And thanks for the invite.
Tomorrow,
You're welcome.
tomorrow it's
Yeah.
just you and me.
Fantastic.
We have not done one of them in
Love
a
it.
long time, and we're going to hopefully do a big announcement on Tuesday. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag.
Is that tomorrow?
That's tomorrow. A big
Okay.
announcement on tomorrow's show for Friday's show that that's everything we're talking about will have a huge impact with these 2 guests that are potentially coming in, but won't know that until the end of today. So I don't want to let the cat out of the bag. but
Oh, that's poor
going to be a lot
cat.
of
Let
fun.
it out the bag.
That cat
Why'd
wants
you
to
do that?
Suffocating me.
Cat wants to breathe.
I've learned.
Wants to breathe, Nick.
So after almost 3 years, I'm starting to learn a little bit from the master across the table from me.
What's
So.
the breathe? Okay, guys, we will continue the discussion from today on the I Love Seville show in 62 minutes with a couple of moms from today's program. Jim Hingley's book for Wednesday at 12:30. Mark your calendars for that interview. Folks, this is Real Talk and the Monday Market Monitor presented by Keller Williams, Segura Solar, Allied Property Management, Yes Realty Property, Yes Realty Partners, and here on the I Love Seville Network, guys. We will be back in 52 minutes for what should be a red-hot show. You guys have a good morning. Take care. Nice and done.
Thank you.